We'll be starting in about 7 minutes.
Hi, Chip. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. Good afternoon. And Omar, I knew you were going to be in the group. That's why I wore the shirt.
Yeah, that's a nice one. Yeah.
I'm a walking advertisement for Apex today. Since we changed our name to ASCM, I suppose I ought to invest and buy an ASCM shirt, but haven't gotten
That's
there
a
yet.
good idea. Yeah.
Haven't gotten there yet. I'll have to talk to the chapter and see what they say.
They'll say, let's talk to our president. So
They never say that. Good afternoon, Patricia.
Hi, Chet. How you doing?
I'm doing well, and you?
Good. Staying inside. It's getting rather warm.
Yeah.
So,
Uh,
and
I-
you?
I'm doing well.
Good.
I was thinking of you yesterday. A lady by the name of Ginny Froome from South Africa uh, is sort of heading up the SAPICS conference this year. And I know that you've been a participant in past years. So,
Yeah. It will everything depends on, the pandemic.
yeah.
So if we can do it by Zoom also, that's great.
Yeah.
But
Well,
to be on a plane for 23 hours is like, okay, I'm getting too old for this stuff,
yeah, I know the feeling. Uh, I I've been teaching quite a bit in Eastern Europe and Western Asia,
Uh-huh.
uh, and it's so much easier to just roll out of bed, comb your hair and go online. And you know, yeah, going from here to Sofia, Bulgaria, I'd leave home at like 8 o'clock in the morning,
Oh,
and I'd be there at 1 o'clock in the afternoon the next day. Um, which is just nuts.
well, are they planning for both a hybrid conference, or is she planning for?
I think they're doing everything online this year.
Oh,
Uh,
good.
the ASCM conference is going to be a hybrid.
Ah,
Uh, Omar's going virtually, but we've got two others who are going physically. It's going to be in San Antonio. So um, I don't know.
nothing more dangerous than Texas, right?
Yeah, I, I, this is not the place you want to be if you're. Uh,
If you're talking virtual, this is the place to not be.
we gave a good name to virtual.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah,
So, well, that's good. Is she expecting a lot of folks? I haven't talked to her in a bit. I talked to Jenny a lot, but not because Jenny, your point goes back to, when all of us were a band of folks traveling from
right.
conference to conference. And
Yeah,
so, but Jenny's doing rather good, well too. She's starting to speak and everything. She was a little afraid. I don't know why, but because she's really very good.
yeah,
But yeah, you
she
hit
is.
on you hit on a good point, Chet, and that is one of the good things about the pandemic was being able to keep up with friends all over the world without having to worry about, are they gone? Are they at work? Are they here? Are they there? You just set a time where everybody is sort of maybe not prime time for everybody, but I'm willing to do midnight for Europe, which is 8 hours ahead of time, no
Yep,
problem.
yep,
So it's been great being able to keep up with folks, because usually
absolutely.
we're all so busy that we just shoot an email, hi, how you doing? And so
Yeah,
it's been great.
and that ties back to the title today. I'm working on it.
Exactly.
Anyway, time to go. Uh, Deanna, are we ready? guess that means yes. Okay. Hi, I'm Chet Frame, and this is Apex for Lunch, August 26th. And today we're going to talk about I'm working on it. An idea that was brought back to me by a friend who gave me that response right after I'd said basically the same thing to my wife. And I realized that when I said it to my wife, I was not working on it. And I had a feeling that my friend had the same issue with me. So we'll talk about that a little bit more. Wanted to start today with the
Yes, Chet, we are ready. We are
Okey doke.
live on Facebook and everything is fine. Thank you.
Okay, good. All right. So let me get to the next one. Here we go. So where are we with the pandemic? Patricia was just talking about this. Global infections continue to go up. The Delta variant has gotten a fairly good start here in the U.S. and in other places, and we'll cover some of that in a couple of minutes. But the death toll continues to grow. There have been 4.4 million deaths recorded. The death toll is probably considerably higher than that, but in India, for example, they were just assuming everyone was dying of COVID, and they were getting rid of the bodies by incinerating them in group pyres, which sounds a little ghastly, but it cleans up the place and keeps other people from being infected. And so we see that it's growing. The vaccinations work. If you haven't been vaccinated, please get vaccinated. And now Pfizer has been given the official benediction by the CDC, and it's an approved vaccine. So that straw man has been destroyed. Let's move forward. Vermont is still holding out in first place. They're a small state with very low total population, but over 2/3 of their population have been completely vaccinated. Texas, we're at 35th in the country at 46%. And although our governor has contracted COVID and managed through the use of drugs, and he's already been vaccinated, he still says we shouldn't wear masks. I think we shouldn't have him as a governor, but that's a whole different discussion. Please mask up, get vaccinated, keep yourselves safe. You're not doing anyone good when you're sick. Someone had asked to go back to port congestion and talk about port congestion as it's impacting trade. And so I want to thank one of our members who forwarded some information to me, and I'm going to share that with you now. Port congestion is not just something that happens here in the U.S. You notice all those little dots on the map. Those are all places that are suffering from congestion, and they are all ports. So it gives you an idea. There are a whole lot of places where things are congested. Here in the U.S., the West Coast is still the worst case, and not just LA and Long Beach, but Seattle and that area on the northern coast, Vancouver, they're having similar problems. And it's because they're short trailers and the rail cars that they need to move the product out. The way they get those is they have to be returned, and that may be a deadhead. And everyone's trying to avoid deadheads. And this is also something else that's contributing to the backlog of ships on the West Coast, because what happens is a ship comes in and it takes a couple, 3 days to unload the ship and get it free of cargo. And then the expectation is that you're going to fill it back up and it's going to go back to sea and sail on to the next port. That's not happening because there isn't a lot of freight going out of the US right now. And so the ships come in and they unload, but then it takes a while to build up a load for the ship to take. And the ships don't want to go out empty and deadhead back across the ocean. That doesn't make any sense to the owners at all. So they stay at the dock waiting until they can get loaded, and that takes up dock space. So then that is bumping those the other ships and keeping them at anchor a little bit longer. The forecast of cargo volumes look like they're going to stay high at their current levels through 2022. And inventory replenishment, the back to school stuff, the pre-Christmas stuff, all of that coming in has created some issues. And we're finding ourselves with a lot of the rail equipment that they use to move it away is not on the West Coast at this point. It's been out delivering product and had nothing to take back to the West Coast, so it's been sitting still on sidings. They're trying to gather that and get that back out. Another impacting thing is that COVID is really hitting China hard. The Delta virus or the Delta variant did not skip over China. It's hit China to the point that Shanghai airport was closed for all of this week and maybe closed for all of next week for freight transfers. So even if you're trying to get things out of China by air, the biggest airport that they use for freight transfer has been shut down. And so that's going to have some impact on people getting the goods they're looking for as well. These conditions will continue, will be in this through March 2022. And if manufacturing slows down in China because of the impact of COVID, then, and that's what, if you read Bloomberg and some of the other financial things, they're talking a lot about that. If that happens, then what we'll see is we'll see a slowing in loads coming from China to the US, but that's going to further restrict the amount of goods on the shelves, impacting Christmas sales and impacting post-Christmas sales. So that's all still up in the air. Average around the world is about 6.5 days wait time for ships to get into a port. They get to the port, they steam to the port, they get there, and then they're told to stay at anchor outside the port and wait. And the average wait time now is about 6.5 days. The reliability of information coming out of the ship companies on when they're going to dock and when your material is going to be delivered, it has dropped to about 40%. They used to be in the high 70s, and it's fallen all the way down to 40% because they don't know when they're going to get in and when they're going to be able to unload. Blank sailings or blank shipments are up. That's when they say, we're not going to go, we're going to skip a port, or we're not going to make a journey. We've said we're going to sail on this date and go to these ports. We're not going. We're going to stay in port. Those are blank sailings, and blank shipments follow from blank sailings where they thought they were going to be able to ship material. They're not, because the ship isn't leaving. And so those are further impacting what's going on with sea transport. How bad is it? Well, as of the 11th of August, and this was the latest data I was able to get, at Long Beach and Los Angeles, there were 31 ships waiting at anchor to unload. In Oakland, California, at San Francisco Bay, there were 8 ships waiting at anchor. In Seattle, Tacoma, and Vancouver, there were 14. Savannah, Georgia, 15. New York only had one. Rotterdam had 15, and Hamburg had 6. So the major North American and European ports, Antwerp and Rotterdam being one of the largest, you can see that they're all sitting there and ships are waiting to come in and get unloaded. What happened? The story behind it? Well, we know most of this. The carriers came in because of the lack of demand with COVID-19. They laid up their vessels and said they're not going to sail. When the economies restarted, they started bringing capacity back online and sailing more ships, but the demand was higher. Consumption spiked. We had more disposable income. We had all of the money that was given out, and people weren't spending that money on vacation travel, so they were buying consumer durables, and that drove up the shipping rates and the containers. That spike led to equipment imbalances, and our rates have continued to rise in many areas. So this isn't going to settle down. If you're using ships and you're paying higher freight rates, that's not going to come down probably till mid-year next year. I wanted to talk about I'm working on it, and the story that sort of pushed me in that direction. I gave you sort of a tease earlier, but this goes back a few weeks ago to a company called Archegos. And Archegos, the guy that started Archegos had been fired by another investment firm because he played on the edge. They thought he was risky, and he won big, but he lost big. And so they let him go, but he was known in the investment area, and he had relationships with some folks at Credit Suisse. And he went to them and said, I'm going to start my own investment company, and I would like to work with you if you will support me in this. And they said, of course, we know you, we've had a relationship, so we'll go ahead and do that. And so he started his own company, and he convinced them to lend him the money. And he went out and he got holdings on several stocks and funds and invested the money. And things were going well for a short period of time. And then all of a sudden the value started to drop. And one day the analyst at Credit Suisse looked and said, oh, well, he had $5 billion in holdings, but now the total worth of those holdings are only worth about 4.5. So he sent him a note and said, you need more collateral here. You're overextended. And if we can't get this fixed, we're going to have to recall a loan. Well, the email he never responded to the email. And so there were a couple of other emails and no response. And so they called. And the gentleman at Archegos said, I'm too busy to talk. Things are going crazy here. I've got another deal's working. I'll get back to you. And so the analyst continued to follow the same steps: send an email, make a phone call, send an email, make a phone call, and never did actually get any sort of credible response from the person he or she was trying to talk to. And then the holdings failed. And all of a sudden, Credit Suisse was out $5.5 billion. That's a lot of money. A billion is 1,000 millions. A millions is 1,000 thousands. So that's a lot of money. So it started me thinking, because as I said, I said this to my wife. She said, what are you going to do that? I'm working on it. And I think all of us do that. But how many of you have had your employees, you check with them and you say, we're running short on this. Yeah, I'm working on it. Well, what does that mean? And if we stop and we don't go any further than, yeah, I'm working on it, what's the impact? Does it mean that you found the root cause and you're almost finished with corrective action and this thing is just ready to go to bed? Or you haven't looked at it, but you plan to in the near future? Or are you just telling me it's not a priority, not my priority? Yeah, I'm working on it. Do you do that? Do you tell others I'm working on it? And how do you respond? And from a managerial standpoint, in operations and supply chain, in materials management, it's critical that we understand what people are doing in real time. What are they actually doing? And is it the right thing? And we can't be micromanagers, but at the same time, we can't accept answers like, I'm working on it. Because I'm working on it doesn't say anything. It doesn't tell us what's going on. It doesn't tell us what's being done. I'm working on it. So how do we manage? The analyst at Credit Suisse was working on it, and she sent emails, made phone calls. She didn't get the issue resolved, and she didn't alert her boss that the client wasn't responding. Do we have the same issues with late shipments, getting quality issues resolved, late payments? And how do we ensure we're working on it and getting it resolved? One of the more embarrassing things I've done in my career was I called a supplier one day and started to read the riot act a little bit because they were late on shipments. And the person on the other end of the phone listened to my rant and then said calmly, you're on credit hold. And I said, what? Yeah, you're on credit hold. You haven't paid your bill. Now, this wasn't me personally, but our company was a huge company. How could we be on credit hold? And so I started digging into it and found out that there had been something that someone had decided wasn't a good transaction. And so they had put a stop on it and we hadn't done any of the other work. And so accounting said, well, this company has a hold on their credit, on their quality for this particular issue. And so we're going to hold up credit until it gets resolved. Or we're not going to pay the bills until it's resolved. And so here we were on credit hold, and I didn't know. And it was a whole mess of things, but the planner buyer hadn't said anything. The quality people hadn't brought me anything to say, you know, we're rejecting these or whatever the issue was. And so I was somewhat embarrassed, but I called the supplier back and said, I will get my end of this fixed. Can you please start shipping me product? And they said, okay, we've got a good relationship. We've had a good relationship. We'll go ahead and start shipping. But how do we manage? We need to not create systems where I'm working on it is an acceptable response. Blockchain theft. I've talked before about blockchain and how blockchain works, and I'm a big fan of blockchain, and I think it's a really good system. But a few weeks ago, a company called Poly Network, which is a decentralized finance group, and a decentralized finance group is like a bank in the real world, but this is in the cryptocurrency world. And what it does is it allows people who have one cryptocurrency in a blockchain to move that currency from that blockchain to another blockchain, or to translate that currency from, say, Bitcoin to Ethercoin or to Ethereum, sorry, they, to some other cryptocurrency. And so the decentralized finance, because they have, there's no physical money, all right? We sort of have to break that mindset that there's physical money. There's no money here. It's cryptocurrency. It's just electrons. And so they do this through a network. And it's not like you walk into the lobby and you fill out a receipt or anything like that. It's all done online. So they accept transactions and move product back and forth, move the currency back and forth to allow a better functioning between different blockchains. And a hacker was working around and found a weakness, and it allowed that hacker to move 610 million into his million into his own wallet. And he said he did it for fun, and he'd return all the money. And then he didn't. So that started the negotiation because the currency was in blockchain, and the other members of the extended ledger were able to see what was going on. They immediately blocked his account. So the hacker had the assets, but he couldn't move them. He couldn't get them out because the other blockchains had blocked him, and he couldn't move. So I'm saying he because we don't know who this person is. Could very well be a she. Could be an artificial intelligence computer working rogue. We don't know. But the hacker then returned 342 million of the 600 plus million, 610 that he had taken. And he moved those back to the wallets that Poly had made available to receive the tokens. But the remaining 268 million is held in an account that requires 2 keys. So it's in another wallet, if you will, but there are 2 keys required. And Poly has 1 key and he has the other key, but both have to be executed in order to move the money. So the hacker wrote in a tweet, I guess in a text, that the key will be released when everyone is ready. And the news has quieted. I mean, I've been tracking this now for 3 weeks, and I haven't been able to get any updates in the last week and a half. So I think that the hacker is trying to figure out how to get out of this without going to prison. He or she can't allow him or herself to be identified. And so keeping a secure curtain around whoever the hacker is the primary work right now for the hacker. And there are a whole lot of people, and these are not people like me and my wife who say, oh yeah, I can turn on my computer. Oh yeah, I can turn off my computer. These people are very heavily invested in cryptocurrency and the whole crypto world and know what they're doing and have a lot of resources. And so they were able to block this person and keep him from transacting. And that hasn't stopped. But now the hacker is trying to figure out how do you get out of this without exposing yourself, and how do you move away? The key system or the key answer here, the thing that I wanted to make the point of is regardless of how good your security is, someone will find a weakness and exploit it. That's going to happen. And we have to come at our systems from that perspective, looking at them and saying, you know, yeah, we've got a really good system. This works really well. And I'm reminded many years ago, I was managing at an operation in Juarez, and I was about to promote one of my bright young warehousemen and make that warehouseman a lead. And I had planned on doing it on Friday, and I walked into the office on Monday morning, the beginning of that week, and there was a note, a Xerox copy that had been floated under my door. I bent down and picked it up, and it was a picture of this employee, and it was copied out of El Diario de Juarez, and they said that he was in prison because he had murdered 3 women. And I said, no, this can't be real. So I turned to one of the other people in the office and said, can you check this out? I mean, this doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Can you? And they checked. He was the right-hand man for a narco, and the narco had wanted these women killed. And so he went ahead and did it. And then he got arrested for killing them. And this was the bright, fair-haired boy that I was about to promote. And that was their goal in having him work at our company, was they wanted him promoted so that he could bring things in, put them into boxes, get them into loads, get them across the border, and get them out to a distribution chain. So regardless of how good our security is and how strongly we feel that we're doing everything possible to make sure that things are going to go the right way, someone's going to find a weakness and they'll exploit it. So go back and look at your systems again and ask that question. What could happen? What could be done? How secure are we? Not just in our computer systems, but in getting product out the door and making sure that if we're CTPAT certified, that we really are secure. So last time I made this pitch, I'm making it again. Omar's niece has been in the hospital and she's in need of blood platelets. And if you know someone or if you can volunteer and donate, we would be very appreciative. And so we ask again, anyone who can, would you please donate in support of this young lady? We've been getting more response on what you would like to discuss. I've got a list started, so I will, next time I will talk more about some of the other things that are on that list. But if you've got problems and you want to talk about them, give us your ideas and we'll put them to work and see what we come up with. We're looking for ideas. These were some that came to us. We want to know more about production inventory management, plans for corporations and academics and government to provide tech skills for their employees. And I think that's a great question. Current events pertaining to port saturation, we talked about that today. And agile methods for procurement and late suppliers. So here's my end of the session advertisement. We've got a CPIM Part 1 class starting September 4th, manufacturing and MRP on September 18th, CSCP, Certified Supply Chain Professional, starting October 2nd, CPIM Part 2, because you have 2 parts and 2 exams now to get your CPIM. And that Part 2 starts on October 16th. And then the Certified in Logistics, Transportation, and Distribution, October 16th. And then we'll have another class in logistics and distribution, October 23rd. So those are our classes as we currently have them lined up for the next couple of months. If you don't see what you're looking for, shoot a note to me or shoot it to Diana, and we'll get a response for you. All right. Thank you for attending. We will be back a month from now, and we'll do this again.
Thank you, Chet. Stay safe.
Thank
You as
Chad.
well, Patricia.